She screamed until her throat tore. The sound was swallowed by the empty desert night. A heavy hand crashed against her cheek. Her body hit the dirt floor of the cabin. The old man spat, his breath foul with whiskey. "You are mine now," he growled. "I paid for you. You will serve me, or you will die here." Evelyn was only 19. She had been dragged from a filthy wagon where women were auctioned like cattle. Her wrists still burned from the ropes. Her feet were raw and blistered. The man who bought her was no rich baron. He was just an old rancher, cruel and bitter, who lived alone at the edge of Texas. He did not want money. He did not want land. He wanted a young body to chain to his table. He wanted someone to break. Evelyn refused him. She clawed at his face when he forced her. She bit his arm until blood ran down. He beat her with his belt until her skin split. Then he locked her inside and muttering that she would learn soon enough. That night, while the old man drank himself into a stupor, Evelyn found her chance. Her arms trembled as she pushed open the rotting door. Her bare feet touched the sand, cold and sharp. She ran. The desert swallowed her. Cactus tore at her legs. Rocks split her knees. Every breath was a stab of fire, but she kept moving behind her. The memory of his voice hissed in her ears. "You are mine. You belong to me." Her dress was torn to shreds. Blood soaked the cloth. Her long hair was tangled with dust and sweat. The moon followed her like a silver eye. Watching her pain, she stumbled once. Her hands dug into the sand. The salt of her tears burned her lips. She stood again. Her body screamed to stop, but her spirit forced her on. Hours passed and her legs gave way. She fell face first into dry grass. When she opened her eyes, she saw a fence in the distance beyond it. The outline of a ranch cabin in a stable. Her vision blurred, her chest heaved. But she dragged herself forward. She could not die here. Not like this. At the ranch, Jacob was tending his horse, nearly 60. His back was bent by years of labor. His eyes carried the weight of grief. He had lost his wife and child long ago to fever. Since then he had lived in silence, with only the land and the wind for company. The sound of something collapsing in the field made him turn. He saw a girl, bloody and broken, crawling through the grass. Her lips trembled. Her eyes were wide with terror. Jacob rushed to her side. Her skin was hot with fever. Her body shivered from exhaustion. She looked at him as if he were another devil, come to finish her. With a voice cracked and hoarse, Evelyn whispered, "I will take it off, please." Jacob froze. The words cut him like a blade. He saw not temptation, but despair. The girl thought he was no different from the monsters she had fled. He knelt beside her, his hand hovering, torn between fear and pity. The ranch was silent except for her ragged breath. The sky above was endless blue. But here on the ground, death and life were at war. Would Jacob turn away and let her die in the grass? Or would this old man, broken by his own past, find the courage to save her? Jacob lifted the girl into his arms. She was light as a bundle of straw. Her head rolled against his shoulder, lips mumbling words he could not catch. He carried her into the cabin, laid her on his bed, and covered her with a blanket. The smell of blood filled the small room. Jacob grabbed a basin, poured water, and began washing her wounds. The girl flinched at every touch. Her eyes darted as if expecting another strike. "Easy now," Jacob whispered. "You are safe here." Evelyn looked at him with wide eyes. Safe. Safe. It was a word she had not heard in a long time. Her skin was fevered. Her arms were striped with bruises. There was a deep gash on her hip where the belt had torn her open. Jacob wrapped it tight with a strip of cloth torn from his old shirt. When he stepped back, she stared at him, trembling. Finally she spoke, her voice thin as a whisper. "He bought me, not with love, with gold." Jacob sat on the chair beside the bed. The fire crackled in the stove. He waited. Evelyn's eyes brimmed with tears. He said, "I was his wife, but I was a prisoner. I tried to fight. He beat me until I could not stand. So I ran. Her voice broke. I thought you would be like him. I thought every man was like him. Jacob rubbed his rough hands together. He had known loneliness too. Years ago, fever took his wife and little boy. Since then, the cabin had been nothing but silence. He leaned closer. I am no saint, girl, but I will not hurt you. If I could pay gold to make him let you go, I would. Evelyn shook her head. Her lips curled in bitter sorrow. He does not want money. He wants me. He will come. Jacob's jaw tightened. He had seen men like that before. Men who thought a person could be owned like a horse or a wagon. Men who believed cruelty was strength. He poured her a cup of water and held it out. Her hand shook as she took it. When she drank, her shoulders eased a little. For the first time since he found her, her eyes held a spark of trust. Jacob sat back in his chair. The desert wind moaned against the walls. He knew what was coming. The man would not give up. And when he came, there would be no law in town to stop him. The question was not if he would come. The question was how far he would go to take her back. The days passed slow. Evelyn grew stronger, though the fear in her eyes never left. Jacob went about his chores, fixing fences, feeding the horses, and always glancing toward the cabin, as if guarding it with his eyes. One afternoon, the dog barked. Hooves pounded up the dirt road. Jack! Ob stepped onto the porch, hand resting near the pistol on his hip. The old man was there. Dust covered his boots. His shirt clung with sweat, but his eyes burned with hunger and rage. He pulled his horse to a stop and shouted, "That girl is mine. I paid for her. You got no right to keep her." Jacob stood firm on the porch. "You paid gold, but not for a person. She is not yours. She will never be yours." The old man sneered. "Save your sermons, old rancher. I want her back. She belongs in my house, not yours." Jacob's jaw tightened. "I will sell every head of cattle I own if I must. Take the price of my herd and leave her be." The old man spat on the ground. "I do not want money. I want her. She will serve me or she will die." The door behind Jacob creaked. Evelyn peeked out, face pale, lips trembling. The old man saw and grinned like a wolf. "Come here, girl. You know you cannot hide forever." Evelyn froze. Her hands gripped the frame of the door, but her feet would not move. Her breath came in short gasps. Jacob stepped down from the porch, slow and steady. "You heard her story. You know what you did to her. If you take one more step, it will be your last." The old man laughed, but his laugh cracked. "You do not scare me." Jacob's hand moved smooth as water. The Colt was out, gleaming in the sun, aimed straight at the man's chest. His voice was calm, steady as stone. "You should be scared now." Silence fell. Only the wind rustled through the dry grass. The old man's smile faltered. For the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. He pulled the reins and backed his horse away, but not before snarling. "This is not over. She is mine. I will come back." Jacob watched until the dust of his horse disappeared. Then he turned, holstered his gun, and looked at Evelyn. She was shaking, tears streaking her face. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "As long as I breathe, he will never touch you." Ugh! Again. The ranch was quiet once more, but both of them knew the storm had only begun. If you're still here listening, it means this story holds you. And if you want to ride with me through the rest of it, hit subscribe so you will not miss what happens when the law gets involved. Because the law of the West was never ever simple. And in the next part, Jacob will learn that justice is not always written in books or spoken in courts. Sometimes it is written in blood. The old man's threat hung in the air long after his horse disappeared. Evelyn sat by the fire that night, staring at the flames, hands clenched tight. Jacob knew fear would eat her alive if he did not act. So the next morning he saddled his horse. "We are going to town," he told her. "We will let the law settle this." The ride into town was quiet. Dust swirled behind them, and the sun pressed heavy on their backs. Evelyn's eyes scanned every shadow, as if expecting the old man to leap out with a rope. They reached the sheriff's office. Jacob pushed open the door, the hinges groaning. The sheriff looked up from his desk, chewing on a toothpick. "What brings you here, Jacob?" Jacob told him everything. The girl, the beating, the man who claimed her as property. The sheriff leaned back, boots on the desk. "Sounds ugly. But do you have papers to prove she was bought or sold?" Jacob frowned. "Papers? She is a person, not a mule to be branded." The sheriff sighed. "Jacob, I do not like it any more than you, but if he paid, and if no contract exists, then there is nothing official here. No crime I can put on record." Evelyn's face went white. Her fingers dug into Jacob's sleeve. The sheriff shrugged. "Truth is, the black market runs deep in this town. Judges keep their eyes closed. Preachers keep their mouths shut. If you stir it, you will only bring trouble." The sheriff leaned closer, his voice low. "I have seen men kill, Ed, for less than this. The ones who run that market will not think twice about putting a bullet in me. That's why I cannot help you." Jacob's voice hardened. "So you mean to say the law has no place for her?" The sheriff lowered his toothpick. "I mean to say, if that old man comes back, the law will not stop him. It will be your fight, Jacob." The walk out of that office felt heavier than the ride in. Evelyn did not speak. Her eyes filled with tears. She refused to let fall. Back at the ranch, Jacob stood on the porch, staring at the horizon. He had tried reason. He had tried reason. He had tried money. He had tried the law. None of it mattered. In this land, power belonged to the man who dared to take it. The old man would return, and when he did, there would be no sheriff and no judge to stand between them. Jacob's hand tightened on the rail. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with a resolve that burned hotter than the Texas sun. He knew what had to be done, but would an old rancher, bent with age and sorrow, truly have the strength to finish it? The sky turned red as the sun sank low. Dry grass glowed like fire across the open field. Jacob stood on the porch, his hand resting on the rail, waiting. He knew the old man would return, and this time it would end. Evelyn stood inside the cabin, peeking through the window. Her heart pounded with every tick of silence. She wanted to beg Jacob not to fight, but she also knew there was no other way. Hoof beat-ats echoed in the distance. Slow, steady, drawing closer. The old man appeared, hunched on his horse, a pistol strapped to his hip, eyes burning with hate. He stopped at the edge of the yard. "This is your last chance, Jacob. Hand her over." Jacob stepped forward on his boots, crunching on the dry earth. "I tried to pay you. I tried the law. None of it mattered. She is not yours. She never will be." The old man drew his pistol for a breath. Time I tell froze. They stood, locked in silence, eyes narrow, sweat dripping, hands twitching near the trigger. The world shrank to two men, two guns, and the space between them. Then Jacob moved first. The crack of a shot split the air. Dust leapt from the ground. Birds scattered from the trees. When the smoke cleared, Jacob still stood tall. The old man's pistol lay in the dirt. His body slumped from the saddle, crashing lifeless to the ground. Silence returned to the ranch. Only the wind carried the truth. Jacob lowered his gun, breathing heavy. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what had been done. Evelyn rushed from the cabin, tears streaming down her face. She threw her arms around him. Her voice cracked. "You saved me. You saved my life." Jacob held her close. For the first time in many years, his heart felt something more than grief. Not joy exactly, but purpose, a reason to keep living. Weeks passed slowly. Each morning, she found a little more strength, though the scars on her body still echoed. Time and care were her medicine. The days that followed were quiet. Evelyn began to smile again. She learned to tend the horses, to cook meals in the old kitchen, to plant seeds in the old kitchen, to plant seeds in the small garden by the fence. Jacob found himself laughing at her clumsy steps, her stubborn spirit. It was not the laughter of youth, but the laughter of a man who thought life had already ended, only to find it had not. The story of Jacob and Evelyn is more than a tale of guns and survival. It is a story about standing up when no one else will. It is a story about protecting the innocent, even when the law stays silent. And it is a story about finding love not in passion, but in loyalty and kindness and in sacrifice. What would you have done in Jacob's place? Would you have drawn your gun? Would you have risked your life for a stranger? If this story moved you, give it a like. Right now. And if you want more tales from the Wild West, stories of courage and redemption, subscribe so you never miss the next ride. Because in the West, every man carried a choice to walk away or to stand firm and change a life forever.